on. Here we go. Good evening. Today is February 19th, 2025, and this is the regularly scheduled meeting of the South Fulton Planning Commission. This is an 8-member commission appointed by the South Fulton City Council and Mayor to make recommendations on applications for rezoning, special use permit, and other planning and zoning related matters. I am the chair of the Planning Commission, and I am joined by Reverend Shannon Jones in District 3, Greg Bailey in District 5, Paulette Devon in District 6, and Yvonne Boone in District 7. Members of the staff present tonight are CDRA Managing Director Reginald McClendon, Matthew Williams, Adriana Equals, and Victoria Young. The applications will be heard in the order listed on the printed agenda. The applications will be allowed a total of 10 minutes to present their case. Since the burden of proof is upon the applicants to convince the board that the application should be approved, they may choose to reserve some of the time for rebuttal following an opponent's presentation. Any individuals in opposition will also have a total of 10 minutes to present their position. If multiple people will speak in opposition, you should organize yourselves so as to allow everyone to speak in the 10-minute time frame. Opposition is not permitted rebuttal time. If you wish to address the commission on a case, you must fill out a comment card and indicate whether you are a proponent or an opponent to a case. If you are not sure whether or not you are a proponent or an opponent, you must fill out an opponent comment card. The commission will take 2 votes on each application. The first vote is on the findings of fact as presented by the staff. The second vote is for approval, denial, or deferral of the application. It is the second vote that determines the board's recommendation to the City Council. These same matters will be heard by the City Council at a public hearing on March 19th, and then finally voted on at the following City Council meeting. I want to reiterate that we are a recommending body. If you feel strongly about a case, it's very important that you also go to the City Council meeting, as they do not always take our recommendation. Please refrain from any verbal outbursts during the public hearing, and please only address the commission during the designated public comment time. Staff, could you please call the roll?
Commissioner McGee, Commissioner Smith-Hicks, Commissioner Perry, Commissioner Reverend Jones,
Here.
Commissioner Watlers, Commissioner Bailey,
Here.
Commissioner Devon, Commissioner Boone.
Here.
We will now move on to the approval of minutes. Commissioners, did everyone get a chance to review the minutes for the last 4 meetings? Chair.
It looks like one meeting.
Chair. Yes,
I believe it's a mistake. This was last time we had 4. It's
Okay.
a mistake.
just one meeting, last meeting. Okay. Did everyone get a chance to review the last meeting? Okay. I will now entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Okay.
I would like to request a point of order to introduce some new information from our last meeting.
Go ahead.
The item that we approved, I don't know if you guys had a chance to look at the council meeting, but the item that we approved for Staxton Road, the 42 houses with the 21 conditions. So that developer.
Commissioner Bailey, I'm sorry, if you all could speak directly into the microphone, the audio is not picking it up. Thank you.
The developer reneged on those 21 conditions. I don't know if you guys saw that, but
I'm sorry, can you just tell us where it is here?
It was a Thaxton Road, subdivision with the 42 house from the previous meeting. It was, 024-027. Yes.
Thank you. Okay.
The page is not numbered, but it is, under C.
It's on today's.
Under
No,
C.
this one was the previous meeting.
It's under C, for the minutes, correct?
Go ahead, Commissioner Bell.
I'm sorry.
No.
Yeah, I brought it from the
Okay.
last week though.
Oh, I see right here.
I would like to make a motion, I mean, because they made an agreement with the community and because they made it, came before the council, the commission, and, again, agreed, they had the resident from the community, speak, and they agreed, that they were gonna abide by the 21 conditions, and then they got before the city councils and reneged and said they weren't gonna abide by any of it. I would like to make a motion that we recommend denial, because we can't have developers coming before the commission, making one promise, and then going before the city council. I don't know how many of us voted based on their approval, with the community on the 21 conditions, but I know I did. And, but to go before the council every day, I think that's dealing from the bottom, so.
Permission to speak, Chair?
Yeah. Commissioner Bailey, go ahead and, turn your mic on. It's so hard to remember, yes.
Okay, so Commissioner Bailey, if you just give me the details of what you said was changed from what was promised, if I could just have that detail once more.
Well, they didn't, at the council meeting, they didn't go into the exact 21 conditions that were changed. I believe they changed, I think they didn't agree to do but like 12 of them, I believe.
Okay.
And then they only gave the community less than 24 hours to respond. They only told them that they weren't gonna complete the deal like 12 hours before the council meeting or something like that.
So, Madam Chair, I'm sorry.
We had a lot to say on this one, go ahead.
Give me that number again. Is that the Z 24-027?
It's this, right?
It's a Z24-027.
The Saheen Group. So our recommendation was that it passed. It went to council
With
Yes.
conditions.
with conditions. And the conditions were the 21. So it went to council. What did council do with it?
They deferred
Okay.
because
Based on,
based on a person from the community coming and speaking out, basically said that they did not appreciate the developer reneging on it.
okay. So they deferred it and they're gonna hear it next meeting. This was last meeting?
It'll be the upcoming meeting. They heard it at the previous meeting on the, what would that be?
Madam Chair, I have a question for staff. So, Mr. Director, what do we do with that? I mean, we made the recommendation based on the 21, I do remember that meeting, based on the 21 conditions. And then when that developer went before council on our recommendation, they changed they reneged on the 21. Was it all of them or, well, if it was one?
About half, yeah.
Okay. So then, had we known that, had we had that information, we would not have passed it.
Thank you for that question. So that's not what happened.
Okay.
The recommendation that you all made went forward to council as you made it. The recommendation from staff went forward to council with fewer conditions than the 21 conditions that were in that agreement between the developer and the community. And there were some,
Why?
well, because we felt that all of those conditions were not enforceable. And so we're still in discussions about that. The conditions that we felt were enforceable by staff remained in the conditions that we forwarded to council. And we believe that they upheld the spirit of the agreement that the developer made with the community. But there was just some language in that agreement that we felt that once it came to us, for us to actually, for the development to actually be built, that we just wouldn't be able to actually hold the developer to, just because of the way that it was written.
So respectfully, was that staff's role to do? Or was-
Absolutely.
It was staff's role. So
Absolutely.
we make a recommendation based on 21. Staff doesn't tell us that it's not enforceable. It goes forth to council, and then council defers it. So can we request the council, they send it back to us, then maybe you all can tell us what is enforceable and what's not enforceable, then we can vote again based on what you can enforce?
Yeah, you all made your recommendation. Council has your recommendation. They are certainly considering your recommendation,
But it's not our recommendation because it wasn't, respectfully, sir.
right?
We sent up 21, you said
Yeah.
15 of them would not, or whatever. That, we can't enforce that. So it changes, not the spirit of, it changes the spirit of the community's view on what's getting ready to come forth and how we handled it. So can we respectfully get it sent back? Staff, let us know what can be enforced of those 21 and what can't be, and let's vote again and make another recommendation, because what's before council now is not the sentiment of this body.
It is the sentiment of this body, because
It
they
is not
still,
the sentiment of this body, because what was not enforceable, we didn't know. And what is enforceable, we didn't know. So those 21 things, it would have helped us in that meeting, because that was a pretty contentious meeting. What would have helped us, Mr. Director, is if we would have been told, we can't enforce all of this, and we hashed that out in that meeting. Because we don't want, we want the integrity of this body.
right?
Just to say, so I thank Commissioner Bailey for bringing this to our attention. I'm just really concerned about that.
Yeah, but the 21 items that you all agreed upon were forwarded to council. If council wants to implement those 21 items, they certainly have the authority to do so. The recommendation from staff and the recommendation from the planning commission does not have to match, and in fact, it quite often does not match. There are plenty of times when we come in here and we recommend denial and you all recommend approval. We recommend approval, you all recommend denial. So those things don't have to match.
I got you on that, and I agree. But those 21, when we ended that, the hairline fracture with that was hold to this deal, these 21. Don't break it, right?
Right.
And the community walked away, everybody was, civil. Now, staff says, well, we couldn't enforce all of that. The developer says, whew, thank God you can enforce it, now we don't have to do it. Then the community is saying, well, wait a minute, this is not what was said in the meeting, so it hurts the integrity of this recommending body to council. I think.
Well, here's the beautiful thing about it.
What's the beautiful thing about it, Mr. Director?
If the developer and the community makes that agreement with each other, and that's an enforceable agreement, and all of those things can be enforced through that agreement, then the community has the opportunity, if those things don't get done, to say, hey, it's in writing, you have to do it. You agreed with us that you would do it. It doesn't matter what staff said.
So I'll just add real quick that we do often give a different recommendation than staff. Staff will recommend approval and will deny it, and council gets both. So they get staff's recommendation. They did get our full recommendation. I have added into what I say in the beginning that everyone needs to go to the city council meetings, because what we recommend isn't necessarily how council is voting. But
Madam Chair, I totally.
Yeah.
That I understand. This is not what I'm saying at all.
Yeah, I'm
It doesn't matter what went over. We are a sworn body that makes an official recommendation as a body to council. Okay, staff also makes an official recommendation.
Yeah.
But what happened here was that we made a recommendation on 21 conditions. And somehow between the close of our meeting and the opening of the city council meeting, staff decided, well, we can't enforce all of this, so I guess did we reduce the list of 21 to a number that we could enforce, or what? Either way, that's not what the community received when they were, and so the last official meeting they went before council was our meeting, right? So staff makes recommendations, like they make recommendations tonight. We can agree to do what staff is saying, or we could not agree, right? Based on what recommendation we want to make to council. But once we make a decision, recommendation to council, to go back and then begin to alter the findings of where we were to come to the conclusion that we came to make the decision we made to recommend officially to council, that shouldn't be touched. And if it is touched, I think it should come back to us. We need to know everything, what's, so that we can tell the community, you know what, that's a great idea, but we know what, staff can't enforce that.
So, Director McClendon, was our recommendation touched or changed in any way?
It was not.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to quickly add, and you guys can research it, but from what I saw, according to Robert's Rules of Law, if the city council did not approve it, as long as they did not approve it, it comes back to us. And we can open it for reconsideration. So I don't know if the staff can verify that, but according to my research, as long as the city council did not vote on it and make it official, it comes back to this body and we can request for a motion for reconsideration. And that's what I'm requesting tonight.
Ma'am. I like to, for the staff and commissioners, in as much as that we have the autonomy to make two entirely different decisions. But I think if we're making a decision that you deem that is enforceable, or we need to make some corrections in, I think we need to stop here and get those details or get that information before we push it forward. Because if you deem it enforceable, we need to know ahead of time so that we won't place that on a document to send it to council. Because I think we're needing your guidance and your leadership when we're making decisions here. So, as the minutes read, they are correct. But as the confusion comes in, is that here we are at a crossroad because we did not know things that we recommended were not enforceable. So that's all my suggestion would be.
Can you speak, please? Thank you. I do have a couple of questions. What was the staff recommendation on this particular case? Because we don't have that document in front of us.
It was approval with those conditions.
It was approved with those conditions? With the 21 conditions?
With the conditions in the staff report, yes.
Okay, and what was the reason for the council deferring the case? I don't quite see where that.
Council held the public hearing. They deferred the final vote,
The final vote.
which wasn't gonna take place at that meeting anyway, so they just pushed out further, their final vote, which they would have normally taken at the next regular council meeting. I think they pushed it out a few weeks. But they went ahead and held the, public hearing.
Okay,
So they
Am I
deferred,
gathering?
they deferred the final vote, to have further meetings with the community and the developer to hash out the conditions.
Okay. When we received our packet, I'm sorry, when we received our packet, were those 21 conditions a part of that packet that you delivered to us on that case? Were they in that case?
I don't
That we
recall.
No,
approved
no,
the
they
fact
weren't.
findings?
There were some, conditions, but the 21 was not, you remember, Mr. Allen got up there and he had a piece of paper that the attorney or the representative for the developer that, and the community had agreed upon, and they were trying to, remember he read the statement where he was trying to get the additional conditions, included in this, in the, approval.
Okay,
Point
so,
of
so staff
clarification.
did not have
Point
privy
of
to those?
clarification, the
Go ahead.
document that the planning commissioner Bailey is referring to had nothing to do with the conditions. It was like a memorandum of understanding between the developer and the community. That was brought on that day. That had nothing to do with the 21 conditions that they sent back in December that were already in the staff report for the January meeting. Again, the document that they brought and they were discussing was something that they walked on that night and said, we would like this developer to sign this agreement with us. It didn't have anything to do with the conditions. They may have referenced them, but it was two separate documents.
Thank you.
So bottom line, Mr. Director, it's council, we sent it to council. Council is deferred it so that they could meet with community and meet with, the developer.
Correct.
Okay, so it's out of our hands.
They have the conditions that you recommended still
But it's out
in
of our
front of
hands.
them.
It's with council now, so.
It is.
Right.
Like every other case that we.
Yeah, we've never had anything come back in the however many years I've been here.
Right.
But again, can we get some clarification on that from maybe staff? According to my research, again, as long as the city council has not voted on it and approved it and made it official, it should come back to us and we can ask for a reconsideration according to Robert's Rules of Order. Can we get clarification on that?
I've never, I mean, if staff was, I think that's a great thing to ask Carl Vinson Institute on Friday.
I would agree with that. I think that would be a good question to ask on Friday.
I think the stickler is if a public hearing is held by city council, then it can't go back. But if it's deferred by city council, then it does come back. As one case on here tonight is deferred at planning commission, then it's deferred at city council. But if they hold a public hearing at city council, I think that would stop it from coming back because it's technically it's moving through the cycle. But again, that'd be a good question for Friday, like you all said.
Because we don't
Okay,
want to think
thank you.
about it. I think it's something the council would have to send back to us. But let's stop thinking.
Okay, cool.
Let's know.
All right, I will now entertain a motion to approve or deny the minutes.
I had an additional, point of, order, on the Z 24-025, the warehouse at Roosevelt Highway.
Yes, go on.
Looking at the packet that they gave us, according to the 2021 comprehensive land, use designation, the packet said that the subject property has future land value use designation in an industrial zone as designated in the 2021 South Fulton Comprehensive Plan, and which supports the proposed zoning. That's on page 2 in this document. If you flip to page 6 in the same document that they gave us, it says staff recommendation, the proposed zoning category is supported by the future land use designation of the property, the city of South Fulton, according to the same 2021 comprehensive plan. The future land use designation of the property is suburban neighborhood. So in the same document, they're saying that the property has two, future land use designations. And then according to the map that you guys gave us in the same packet, it does not show industrial use, it shows suburban neighborhood. So I would like to find out what is the actual future land use on this particular.
What was that case number again? It's Buffington Center Place? Or
It's,
Roosevelt?
Zebra 24-025/CV 24-009.
That's the Roosevelt Highway case. The land use on that case is industrial zone. So the confusion is that that land use was changed. I don't think earlier this year, because we're in February, so probably that would have been late last year. Via a resolution that was sponsored by the council member. And so the maps likely have not yet been updated to indicate the new land use designation, which is typical. It takes a while for the maps to get updated. The current land use is industrial zone. We probably, the language, the map, so we probably don't have a map that indicates that the land use is industrial zone. I will say that the language probably should have been updated to say industrial zone in the second part of the staff report, but the recommendation is correct based on that.
Okay, thank you. Is that clear for you, Commissioner Bailey?
No, I had a couple more issues on this property. Mr. McClendon, is it, I've been told by council members, people in the community, that the land use maps, future land use maps are pretty much in stone, and we have to, as this body, we have to take in consideration the future land use of the designation of the future land use maps. I did a little more research, and I did see where council was briefed of this property in September. They voted on it in October, changed the zoning, and then presented it to the community in November. And it's the exact amount. It's, you know, it wasn't like they did a whole swath of land. They did 17.11 acres. 4 parcels, the exact 4 parcels that this developer needed, went to council 2 months, well, 1 month for read, 1 month for vote, and then brought to the community. How did that happen? If we have to stick with the future land use maps, is what I'm being told. That's future land use.
Okay, I'm so sorry. Point of order. We do have to approve these minutes, and what we need to do is just look and see if the minutes are accurate from the last meeting. And then we do need to move on with the agenda. But I do think that we should have this conversation maybe after the meeting. It sounds like, Director McClendon, what would you say to that?
But I
Is
can't,
there something with the minutes that you feel like is inaccurate from the last meeting?
just what these 2 points that I brought up.
Yeah,
They
okay.
were, you know, he said that on both of them, I mean, the map does not reflect the current zoning.
Right, yeah,
These
okay.
are things that we can't really approve the minutes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm sorry. I was, well, when we were talking about the council meeting, I just felt like we were going in a different direction, which I think is very useful and very fruitful, but, yeah, go on, carry on.
No, well, it was really 2 separate sets of points of order. The first one was the council meeting getting the 21 conditions that we recommended. That's one point of order. And this is a separate point of order.
Absolutely.
Okay. But again, I mean, can you answer whether we are bound by the future land use maps, or can council change and amend land use maps per applicant? Because that appears what happens with this one.
So that's not a question about the minutes, that's just a general question about process?
No, because it goes into, again, this was approved because we were told that it was already zoned industrial, which it was technically, but it was zoned industrial.
Not zone industrial, but the
Well,
future
well,
land
future
use
land use
designation was
maps.
industrial.
We were
Okay.
told that we need to go by the future land use maps. And the future land use map showed that it was zoned industrial on the future land use map. But this zoning only took place a month before the developer needed it to be zoned. It wasn't like it was already zoned in from the 2021 future land use map. So my point is, are the future land use map designations in stone, like I've been told, or can, as a body, can we ignore the future land use maps? Because it's very easy for a developer to come in here and get this stuff changed right before he makes his application. And then now we're being held saying that we have to abide by it. But if the council can change the future land use map at will, then how are we being held to that standard?
Okay.
We up here in this meeting is councilman.
I think some of these questions might be answered best by looking at your duties that are outlined, in chapter 5 of the code. I'm sorry, I took Ms. Boone's copy. Let me take one of the other copies. So under duty number 3, one of the planning commission's duties is to review and recommend for adoption to the city council a zoning ordinance or resolution in map for the city and all proposed amendments to the zoning ordinances and the zoning and future land use maps. So not only do you have the ability to change the future land use map, but it is one of your duties to review and recommend any changes to the future land use map, if that answers your question.
Well, I wasn't here, but did this body review that land use map change that they did in?
This body did review that change. Land use map changes have to come before this body. It reviewed that change and gave a recommendation.
Can I speak? I think what Mr. Bailey is talking about, I do think he has a point. If we are verifying the veracity of what is in these minutes, then we need to be sure about it. And listening to the points that he's making, I'm unsure about it. And I couldn't say definitively, as you answered, and no disrespect, about having seen the map that was just spoken about. I can't say that. We don't have that material in front of us to review it to say yes or no. I don't. So I think Mr. Bailey's making a good point. I yield.
Okay, do you feel complete with your questions? Or?
Well, yeah, we need some answers before I can approve the minutes.
Well, you can also not approve the minutes.
Yeah.
That would be what I would recommend in this moment. If you are not in agreement with the minutes, absolutely do not approve them, you know. So. Yeah.
If we are here to approve the minutes, and there's some discrepancies before us, would it not be appropriate to try to diffuse some of the discrepancies? Because then when we move on and vote, we need to know, per his questions, if the future land map is going to be changing, when will that particular change be inserted into something that we may have to make a decision about? So I'm for going on to, approve or disapprove of the minutes. But however, I too think it is a valid point. When things keep changing and the developers are coming in here trying to change things from one zoning to another. And he's asking that he's been told to abide by what the future land map, but yet things are changing before us. And so at what point will we be provided those changes? I concur with his concerns, and I do recognize there are some discrepancies.
Yes.
We, so this is KZ 24-025. Can we, Madam Chair, approve the minutes, and with concerns about, Z24 and revisit, our findings on this?
I believe there are two cases that discrepancies were found by Commissioner Bailey, so maybe we point out those two cases, and can have further discussion, but also move on with the meeting. How does everyone feel about that?
Yeah, I think so.
Commissioner Bailey, does that feel good to you? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I will then entertain a motion, and perhaps you could
Okay.
put that motion together.
Commissioner Bailey, you want to do the motion?
That's great.
Point of so it can be cleaner, I would recommend you all defer the minutes to the next meeting and then give us some points to research, and then we can hopefully bring that information back to you at the next meeting. Because if you vote on the minutes, technically we don't have to go back and open them back up because you all voted. So defer the minutes, give us what you want to know. We'll bring that information either prior to the next meeting, and then you all can have a better knowledge for the vote at the next meeting.
Brilliant, thank you.
So how long were you going to let us do this before you told us? Go ahead. Make a motion.
Well, I make a motion to defer the approval of the minutes until our next meeting.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Staff, could you please call the roll?
Commissioner Smith Hicks,
Yes.
Commissioner Reverend Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Bailey,
Aye.
Commissioner Devon,
Aye.
Commissioner Boone,
The ayes have it. We will now move on to department updates.
Thank you. This will be extremely brief. We do have our training session, our first of 3 training sessions coming up on Friday at our city administration building. We do hope to see all of you there. I would ask that all of you give us a response and let us know if you're coming, if you haven't done so already. That's number 1. Number 2, last night we had our opening public meeting for our comprehensive plan update at Sandtown Recreation Center. It was a packed house. A lot of public interest in our comprehensive plan update, which will include an update of our future land use map that we were just having a healthy conversation about. So as planning commissioners, I would hope that you all are certainly helping us to get the word out about that update. The next meeting is Monday. What's Monday's date? Whatever Monday is, this Monday coming up at 6:30 at the Monday the 24th, 6:30, the Economic Development offices on Old National Highway. That is the next meeting. It's going to be kind of a repeat of the first meeting. which is basically an introduction, but we're also doing some visioning, getting some responses from the community. So we're asking everyone who is listening and can attend to please attend that meeting. And I believe that is it. So thank you for that.
Was it high?
Thank you.
6:30.
We will now move on to the election, the 2025 election of chair and vice chair. I will now open the elections.
Make a motion to defer the election until we have a full body, or the next meeting.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Staff, could you please call the roll?
Commissioner Smith Fix,
Vickers. There's no discussion with it? Just kidding.
You know what? Any further discussion before we take the vote?
I just was curious to know, when is the body supposed to elect for vice chair and chair?
Today.
Well, I'm saying, like, when is that tip? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is
Every
it?
12 months.
Got it. Okay.
Any further discussion? Okay. Staff, could you please call the roll?
Commissioner Smith Figurs,
Aye.
Commissioner Reverend Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Bailey,
Aye.
Commissioner Devon,
Aye.
Commissioner Booney,
Yes. Aye.
The ayes have it. We'll now move on to old business, KZ 24-012, application by Land LLC-M. Hakeem Hilliard requesting a rezoning from C1 CUP, and I'm going to pass that off to staff.
KZ 24-012, along with the concurrent variance 24-003, application by SECC Land, care of Hakeem Hilliard, is requesting a rezone from C1, which is our limited commercial district, to CUP, which is our community unit plan district, to A1, which is our apartment dwelling district at 0 Campbellton Road, at 0 Campbellton Circle, to develop 314 multifamily units. The applicant is also requesting a concurrent variance to exceed the height restriction to no more than 50 feet on 27.04 acres of land. This is in City Council District 2.
Okay, thank you. We'll now open the public hearing.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. My name is Hakeem Hilliard, Shilowitz Grubman Law Firm, 1834 Independence Square, Atlanta, Georgia, 30338. I'm here this evening again to ask you for a deferral. Respecting this body's new policy about deferrals and the discussion that I've listened to, I want you to know that this application was originally, we started working on it in September of 2023. We filed it at the end of that year. We've been working since then, and all those times we've been coming here asking for deferrals is because we've kind of reached an impasse with the community, and we didn't want to go forward and ask for support from the council unless we had a critical mass of residents that supported our request. We've had bus tours of our sites, our development sites. We've more recently, since the last time I was here last month, when I said I probably would be ready to go this month, we met with the council member Gums. We met with the heads of the neighborhoods over there, Cliftondale, Falls of Cascade. We've agreed to incorporate additional land as a part of this process. We're not going to make it as a part of this application, but there's a 5-acre site that we're going to amend the application to include. That's going to be commercial. There's another site that's about 11 acres, and we're now land planning it to add for-sale housing because the community made clear to us that they want this to be a true mixed-use project, and they want to see it go together. So our plan is to file another application for an adjacent parcel that would include for-sale housing. It will travel, it will catch up with this application, and I appreciate the discussion today, because what we want is to be able to have these applications vetted together by this body, because you all are the planning commission. You all help us figure out what works. We do all the negotiations. with you, with the neighborhoods before we get here. And so when it gets to council, you know, there is some still discussion, but we really want to have the opportunity for you all to see this full proposal together. We're asking for a 60-day deferral. I think that Director McClendon will affirm for you that Councilmember Gums has made that request in addition to us, because she was in these meetings and she sees that there's an opportunity. I don't want to jinx the process, but I feel like we're moving in the right direction with the community, which is why we're all committed to doing this. The developer has a multifamily development project that's been proposed, and that's what's pending now. And we're talking about adding commercial and a second piece of land adjacent to it to add for-sale housing. And so then we'll have different housing types included with this project. We'll have some commercial attached to this project. There's parkland that's there that was donated to the county a long time ago that we think it's for parkland. We're hoping that can be developed, and we want to show you the whole thing. You know, we don't want to come here with this application and come back in 2 months with this other application that's disconnected, because you have the opportunity and right to view it together. And I'll just say, just because I got the mic, I'll say this: I appreciate your policy, but you know, I hope you all will be sensitive to the fact that a lot of times when we're asking for deferrals, it's for this reason, so that we can have this body see the whole thing. You know, because conditions are negotiated when you get to council a lot of times, and you all aren't a part of that, and deferrals kind of help that process. So other jurisdictions, they don't like all these deferrals either, but some, you know, like Atlanta, they'll charge you a fee for asking for deferrals beyond the second deferral, but they don't ever give up the right to defer, because it's really in the benefit of the Planning Commission, and I think the full council. So, but I'm saying all that, we would like to request a 60-day deferral. I hope Mr. McClendon will confirm that Councilmember Gums has said that she supports that and encouraged that and communicated that. So for your consideration.
Thank you. Do we have any cards for this case or against, since we've opened the public hearing?
None.
Okay, thank you. In that case, if you feel complete, I will go ahead and close the public hearing. Okay, thank you. Okay, commissioners, how's everyone feeling? Shall I entertain a motion to defer this case, since it is old business and the developer came in under the old rules, before I move forward?
Discussion.
Permission to speak?
Yes, go ahead.
We've deferred this case 3 times now.
Mhm.
Old rules, new rules is 3 times that we've deferred it. The first time, I think it had to do with more public input. And I would like to ask the applicant, what were the other 2 reasons for?
Well, the facts are is that the Cliftondale neighborhood is a controlling neighborhood for the project right now. And in all of our discussions, there have been a request that we not just come forward with a multifamily project deal. It's 314 multifamily units, 2 buildings with 129 units each, 4 stories. We're asking for a variance to exceed the height limitation. And then there's, I think, 14 cottage units with 2 stories that are adjacent to the single family. And the community really just, we've had conversations with everybody. They wanted to see different product. We stopped it for a couple months and we did a bus tour with the neighborhood leaders to show the community the products that our client does in the multifamily space. I think there was some positive movement from there. But in our recent meeting since last month with the council member and some of the other community leaders, they made clear very specific things they wanted to see, because there's adjacent land that the landowner who owns the property where the pending application sits also owns adjacent land on both sides that is commercial and residential. They made clear that they wanted to see, not if it's going to be apartments, we want to see a for sale option as well, and we want to have commercial included as a part of the project as well. So we've had the opportunity to do that, but we're planning that site now, and so each time, you know, we're trying not to go forward and come before this body and have a big fight with communities that don't support a project. We really want to have a project that people can feel good about, and we're really just negotiating kind of the details rather than whether the project overall is work. And, you know, sometimes it takes a long time to get there, but we feel like we're close to getting there. We're asking for 60 days so that we can get this plan together that they want to see for sale, get it ready, started in the process of the pre-app meeting. We have to have the community meeting. We have to file it and get it here so that it's all here together on 60 days. So it's been more than 3 times we've deferred, though. We've deferred. Yeah, we've deferred a lot of times, and I think it's because we've been here probably 7 or 8 times asking for deferrals.
So just for clarification, so you're saying that the more input you get from the community and from the council people, the project is getting bigger? Because that sounds like what you're saying. Is that what you're saying?
It's getting bigger. It's a site that, if you're familiar with the BP gas station is at the corner of Cascade Palmetto Highway and Campbellton Road, it's the undeveloped land behind that. And there's a lot of undeveloped land, and then behind that, there's single-family housing to the north and the east down. And so there's all this undeveloped land. The property owner dedicated a piece of that land, 85 acres, for parkland to Fulton County before the city became a city. So we want to kind of get that sorted out, but that's kind of there and dedicated. We have to figure it out. We don't know why the city hasn't been able to get that land yet, but we want to be a part of that. There's I think 11 or 12 acre site along Cascade Palmetto Highway that is undeveloped. That's the site that the current developer that's doing the multifamily is now looking at land planning for single-family housing, which is what the community there said that they want to see. Marcus Carter, who I think has been here for a lot of times, who's head of Cliftondale, was in the meeting with us a couple of weeks ago. I'm in regular communication with him. He doesn't come here for a lot of these deferrals because I say, we're going to ask. I don't want to bother you to come down here. And then Connie Robinson, I think, I forget the name of the neighborhood, I think it's Fallsy Cascade neighborhood, was in the meeting also. So, like I said, I don't want to jinx myself and say, hey, everybody's singing Kumbaya today, but I think we're going to be able to present them a plan in time that they're going to be able to kind of work through with us and positively. The council member is on the board. She thinks we're moving in the direction that she wants to see. And then just logistically, we can't add this other parcel of land to the process because I think the other thing they want to know is we're not just going to zone it and do nothing with it. So they want to see that application here and being vetted with you all as one project, because it's different parcels, but it's really one project. You got the gas station, you got the single family, you got the multifamily, you got the park, you got the commercial, and even though they're on different parcels of land because of how they have to be financed, we want to give you one project at the same time. So that's the reason. And I know that I'm overindulging to have to come back over and over again, but the goal is to give you something that you all can thoughtfully, because I think what you all, the conversations you had earlier was just appropriate for this site. I mean, because we could take a recommendation on this application forward, probably for denial, because there's no support for it as it is right now, and get there, and it'll sit in council, and the council will take it, and they have the opportunity to vote on it. So that's why we're making the request that way. I'm talking too much.
Thank you. Did we put the timer on?
This is our discussion, so when you ask a question, then that's giving the opportunity to speak. But, any further discussion, commissioners, before I call the vote? Yes.
Cliftondale is pretty active community and pretty litigious community. By the fact that I don't see an outpouring of them, and in line with what attorney said regarding Councilwoman Gumbs' interjection into this, I think that we can give this, because just knowing Cliftondale, they may be moving in a certain direction, because if they weren't, we would see that outpouring tonight. That notwithstanding, I think the attorney did, in light of Atlanta's fee, call us cheap.
No. I don't want it.
Any further discussion, commissioners? Okay.
60 days.
We are discussing, the commissioners are discussing now, so if you have a particular question for the developer or staff, it would be okay. Well, sorry.
I have a question.
Yes,
Can I ask the applicant a question?
absolutely.
Okay. How many more times do you plan to defer?
My hope is, our goal is to bring the other parcel of property that has to be rezoned, and it'll be rezoned as a separate parcel to be considered with this one, that we can get back here in 60 days. That's why that's what I was raising my hand for. We wanted to ask that you support a deferral for 60 days, because I know that we're not going to be able to get through the city's process to get in front of the planning commission in 30 days. Unless you all, I mean, I think we can get back in 60 days unless you disagree.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anything else, commissioners? Okay, well then I will entertain a motion to approve, deny, or defer this case.
I move to defer this case for 60 days.
A second.
Properly moved and seconded. Staff, could you please call the roll?
Commissioner Smith Vickers,
Aye.
Commissioner Reverend Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Bailey,
Aye.
Commissioner Devon,
Nay.
Commissioner Boone.
Nay.
I believe the ayes have it.
On a clarification, are we
Yes.
doing 60 days or to the second meeting for the planning commission? Because if you do 60 days, going by 60 days, we're going to miss the planning commission April 16th. But if you want to go to the April 16th planning commission, which I think is Mr. Hilliard's intent, perhaps that should have been in the motion. But if we do just a flat 60 days from today, we're going to miss the April 16th planning commission.
Chair, may I redo my motion?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. No, thank you for that. I move to defer, case Z 24-012/CV 24-003 for 60 days. What is the meeting date? I'm sorry.
April 16th.
To the April 16th, 2025 Planning Commission meeting.
Just point of order. Is that 60 days? How many days is that?
Can I-
57 days.
Can I just
Is that
add?
fine?
No.
Is that-
Yeah, I just wanted to say, the staff is in the best position to tell me because we have not submitted this plan because they're working on a revised plan. And then we're gonna have to come in and have a pre-application meeting. And then we're gonna have to host our own, we're gonna have to have a pre-application meeting and do the community council. So based on your schedule, you know, if we don't get the plan in for a couple weeks, you know, I don't wanna mislead you all. We have to go through your process with this other app because it's very, very important to, I think, the council member and the people that we've been talking with, that application travel with the pending one.
So is it your intent that these two applications be heard together and voted on together?
That's the expectation of everybody we've been talking to, yes. And I think it's the planning commission's desire too, if they know that this is one project, so.
So keep in mind that you all do have May off, and technically the zoning cycle that Mr. Hakeem will apply for, that second application would run that cycle, so it wouldn't be heard in May, it would be heard on the June 18th meeting. So you could defer it to the June 18th meeting, and then they will definitely be heard together if you apply by March 17th.
So there's a motion on the floor now. I want to vote with that motion, but I was trying to give him the 60 days he was asking. Whatever the process is, I think if we're off in May, thank you for freedom, and we're back in June, then why don't we just defer it? My recommendation would be to defer it, if that's okay with the applicant, to June, given that this is about the 8th deferral.
And that's the June 18th date.
Okay, so we need to redo the motion again. Okay. Okay, so I move to defer case Z 24-012/ZV 24-003 to the June 18th meeting.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Staff, could you please call the roll?
Commissioner Smith Vickers,
Aye.
Commissioner Reverend Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Bailey,
Aye.
Commissioner Devon,
Aye.
Commissioner Boone.
Aye.
The ayes have it. We'll now move on to new business. Case U24-019, an application by Devin Fitz requesting a special use permit at 445 Commerce Circle Southwest to operate a pet crematory. The deferral is the next one? Okay. My apologies, we're actually going to move on to item 2 of new business because it is a referral request, and then we can have more efficiency in our process. We'll now move on to case Z24-033, an application by Century Communities, Gaskins and LaCroix requesting a rezoning from AG1 to CUP. Thank you. And staff, I'll pass it off to you.
KZ 24-033, an application by Century Communities, care of Gaskins and LaCroix, requesting a rezoning from AG1, which is our agricultural district, to CUP, which is our community unit plan district, at 7357, 7361, and 7365 Ono Road, to develop a subdivision with 220 single-family detached homes and 1 existing single-family dwelling on 119 acres of land.
This is a first deferral, correct, Director McClendon? So I will now entertain a motion to defer this case.
I think the applicant can speak to the deferral as to why they're deferring it.
The applicant is present? Yes, please come forward.
Absolutely. Good evening. I'm Danny Blumenthal with Gaskins LaCroix, 1266 Powder Springs Road in Marietta, Georgia. We had a community meeting for this in the Palmetto Library. I think it was February 10th. It was well attended. About 30 people came out. Quite a few of them are here this evening. And as they would all probably tell you, there was not any support for this, but we heard them loud and clear. That's why we're requesting a 60-day or to the April 16th meeting. We're requesting to defer to that meeting to allow more time. We're making some significant changes to the plan. We've been working with the councilman, and we'll, plan to have an additional community meeting. But we did email and call everyone that attended the community meeting to let them know of our intent to defer tonight to allow more time to work out some changes and address their concerns.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions regarding this?
I've got a quick question.
Yes, go ahead.
Just on notes, I heard what you said, Madam Chair, but do we not get notes when they request, when a request for deferral is coming? Because I see that the applicant has a packet. We don't have a packet.
Yes, we do not have that packet.
Oh, okay. She does not have, that's not. So do we not get a packet if the, because that's new. We used to get it.
Yeah, so typically we would send the entire packet, but the packet would say deferral. So instead of doing that, wasting paper, we'll just say it's a deferral and there's no recommendation, basically. So, but if we defer it, if it's coming from us, then we'll give you the packet with the information. But if it's the applicant or you all, then we know we want to do it.
So what if the majority votes to not defer it? Then how would we?
So this is a good question. As an effect of the new rules that we passed, being that this is their first time requesting a deferral, what we've effectively done is that we've agreed as a body that we are going to give them that deferral. So this case would not go forward. So we've taken away the possibility that the case might go forward over their objection. So that's why we've kind of not gone through the process of giving you of putting together a whole staff report and giving it to you, even though we know that it's going to be a deferral request, if that makes sense.
So we should understand first deferral. If it's a first deferral, do we even need to go through it? Do they need to put it on the agenda?
Oh, we got to put it on the agenda so we can keep track of the deferral, of the number of deferrals. Yeah.
When did this role take place? Because it doesn't seem like anyone up here is knowledgeable about this new rule.
When did we vote on that? December? Yeah, December.
Okay.
It's new. Things are changing. We'll get used to it. Yeah.
So the understanding is if it's the first deferral, Madam Chair, if it's the first deferral, we'll see it and we'll just automatically defer it.
And for the benefit of our new members and for the benefit of the public, the new rule is that we're capping the number of deferrals at two. I hope I'm remembering this correctly, actually. Two deferrals, the applicant gets one deferral automatically. Staff gets to request a deferral. But that's it. After that, the case will go forward to a public hearing.
Okay, I just have
Commissioner Devon? Oh,
clarification. My understanding is that we don't have to give a deferral at all. That if we do, we cap it at two, but it's our option whether to give a deferral or not to give a deferral, whether it's the first one or the second one. Is that correct?
I don't think that's the language that was passed. Perhaps that might be one. I don't know if we need to hash that out right now. Let's get that language pulled up because we put it in writing, put it in your rules. Friday might be a good day to talk about that at our training session, but we'll make sure to send that out to you so we have that exact language. But my recollection of the language that was passed is that deferral request would be automatically granted.
Reverend Shannon Jones.
Madam Chair, that was Boone's, Commissioner Boone's understanding was kind of my understanding as well. Just that we would understand why there was a deferment, a deferral request, and we would be lenient at the first, and then staff would do the second, but we still knew why they were, what the reason was for the deferral. That was my understanding. Not to just keep beating a dead horse, but certainly we can deal with it on Friday.
Yeah, if the language reads differently than you all intended, then the great thing about it is we can go in and massage it and change it to something different.
Commissioner Bailey.
Yeah, I just want to add, now, if we let this slide tonight, and I get what you're saying, this is not the right time to do it, but if we really did not want to do the deferral, we need to get that figured out tonight, because we're setting a precedent for someone to get an automatic deferral. So we need to look up the language and get that straight tonight, I would think, before we make a decision on this particular case. You follow what I'm saying?
May I be recognized by the chair, please?
Yes. Commissioner
So,
Bickers.
Is there a way, can we pull up the language so that, because I think what everyone's saying is we can't vote on something that they don't even really know. They're not clear on the language right now. So if it's something you could share with us.
I do believe it was the December meeting.
Chair,
Yes. Sorry. Down there.
while they're looking up the language, I'd like to make another suggestion or recommendation, however you deem it. And we keep a rule book close at hand during our meetings, so we can reference it as we go along.
I like that idea, Commissioner Devon. Even a handout with many details that we can draw on would be helpful. going to go ahead and take a 5-minute break so everyone can use the restroom, stretch your legs, and we will continue in 5 minutes. 10 minutes, maybe.
All right, I do. So the rules, do not specifically say that the application, that the request will be automatically granted. They read that, each case presented to the planning commission may be deferred a maximum of 3 times, in the following manner. Staff can request 1 deferral. Applicant can request 1 deferral. Planning commission may, in its sole discretion, grant 1 deferral if additional information is necessary for a recommendation. Then it talks about request for deferral must be submitted in writing 7 days prior to the scheduled planning commission meeting, et cetera. Once the maximum number of deferrals has been exhausted, the case must proceed as scheduled or be withdrawn, and the applicant must start from the beginning of the application process. So you all are certainly correct. So in the future, we will not assume that you all will automatically grant that deferral, and make sure that we have, even if it is the first time on the agenda, we'll make sure that we have a staff report in hand in case you all do not grant that deferral. I'll leave a copy of these rules up here for you all if you want to take a look at them.
Thank you, Director McClendon.
Chair, may I be recognized?
Yes.
Before the December 2024 meeting where this rule was voted on, what was the amount of deferrals before then? Because it wasn't. Oh, it was unlimited?
A great many.
Oh, okay. I was just curious since the last gentleman had so many. So, okay. Thank you.
Okay,
And point of
Commissioner.
clarification,
Yes.
the staff report was emailed to you all last week, so you do technically have a copy of it. It's just not a hard copy.
Thank you. Commissioners, oh, yes, go ahead.
Will we now have that information available at our meetings to reference if we need to?
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you.
So Commissioners, is it everyone's, should I entertain a motion to defer? Is everyone in agreement for that? Yeah, okay, I will entertain a motion.
I make a motion to defer, Mike's not on, I'm sorry. I make a motion to defer case Z24-033 for, I believe the applicant said 60 days, but I'll defer it to the April meeting.
Is there a second for this motion?
Was it, how many days are we doing, 60 days on this, or?
The 60 days, I guess it is technically 57 days to the April meeting.
I thought that was for, the previous case. I don't know if this.
The applicant had asked for 60 days, and so I just included in the motion to the April meeting, which is technically 57 days.
I second that motion.
Properly moved and seconded. Staff, do you please call the roll?
Commissioner Smith Vickers,
Aye.
Commissioner Reverend Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Bailey,
Aye.
Commissioner DeVon,
Nay.
Commissioner Boone.
Nay.
Okay, the ayes have it. We will now move on to new business case U24-019, an application by Devin Fitz requesting a special use permit to operate a pet crematory. And I'll pass it off to you.
Yes, case U24-019, the applicant seeks a special use permit to operate a pet crematorium and memorial services in the M2, which is our heavy industrial, also within the Fulton Industrial Business Overlay District. The address is 4445 Commerce Circle. The approximate square footage of the office space is 3,500 square feet with 1,155 square feet for office space and 2,345 for warehouse space. Staff is recommending approval with 2 conditions. Those conditions are that the special use permit is not transferable and that the permittee is required to maintain a valid South Fulton business license to operate a special use for a pet crematorium.
Okay, thank you. Is the applicant present? Yes, come on up.
Good evening. My name is Devon Fitz, and as mentioned, I'm here for case U24019, which I am requesting a special use permit for a pet crematory, which will be operating at 4445 Commerce Drive Southwest, Suite B10, Atlanta, Georgia, 30336. And so as we have on the screen, we have just a brief presentation that will allow you guys to understand the nature of the business and the services that we will offer from this location. So the name of the business is Resting Rainbow Pet Memorials and Cremation. And so we are a full-service pet memorial and cremation center, and we're requesting to come to the city of South Fulton in spring 2025. We are a trusted and compassionate pet memorial and cremation center and have been rated as one of the top 10 companies to partner with in 2025. Our mission is to honor your family with dignity and respect while bringing comfort and understanding to you and your family in one of the most difficult times, which is the passing of a beloved animal and or pet. My name again is Devon Fitz. I will be the owner of Resting Rainbow of Atlanta. I am an Atlanta native, a University of Georgia graduate, and I'm also a graduate of Pittsburgh Institute of Mortuary Science. I have over 12 years of corporate business experience along with owning other businesses here in the city of Atlanta and throughout Georgia. I have over 10 years of funeral service experience, with about 6 of that being here in Atlanta, Georgia on the human side of the business. And I'm an animal lover, and I also have fur babies of my own. As mentioned, this location will be at 4445 Commerce Drive, Suite B10, Atlanta, Georgia, 30336. It is currently zoned properly. M2, Heavy Industrial, Fulton Industrial Business Overlay District within District 1. And I'm requesting to have a special use permit to operate my business at this location, which that case is U24019. And so just a quick rundown of some of the services that will be offered there. We will provide dignified, respectful, and private cremation services for families during the loss of their beloved pet at our state-of-the-art facilities. One of the difference between our pet crematory and the other pet crematories that exist all throughout Atlanta is that we all will be certified pet crematory operators. I'm already a certified crematory operator. We will also be registered pet funeral directors. We will also be pet bereavements and also go through pet bereavement certification program. Again, also having over 10 years of experience and academic degree in mortuary science from a human perspective will also allow me to operate this in an ethical and humane way. We will offer families to offer the opportunity, if they like, to witness the cremation and have a private viewing before we take care of them in our private facility. We will have a variety of memorial urns, merchandise, and products that would allow you to always remember your beloved pet. There will be no services on property. It just will be for them to come say their final goodbyes, 1 to 2 family members. We will also offer counseling and therapy services as needed. We will partner with the community for outreach events, along with other animal and industry-related providers here in the city. And then just from an environmental and community update perspective, we will be operating out of a state-of-the-art facility with an American A250P2 side-by-side cremator. Essentially what that means is that we are the most efficient. We have the most efficient machine on the market. We also have the cleanest burning machine on the market. It will emit no odors, no smoke, no chemicals. It's also one of the quietest cremators in the industry at about 70 to 71 decibels, and that's equivalent to about the sound of a washing machine or a dryer or a telephone ringing. It will have auto-correcting configurations, and it will operate on PLC controls, which are designed to operate efficiently and effectively. Again, as mentioned before, all of my staff will be factory trained and certified by the manufacturer, and they will be also certified crematory operators. There will be no noise and or visible signs of a crematory being operated to the general public, and we can stand behind that because in other locations in Florida where we have this business, people around them don't even know they exist until they need that service. And then, of course, we will operate in accordance with all Georgia air quality and EPA laws and ordinances. And so, again, the location is at 4445 Commerce Drive Southwest, Atlanta, Georgia, Suite B10. This is a picture of the location on the screen. It's known as the Atlanta Trade Center. And again, it is already zoned properly. And I am just requesting a special use permit to operate my business here.
Thank you. Are there any cards for this case?
No cards.
No cards for or against, yeah. Okay. Do you have anything else to share before we close the public hearing?
That is all.
Okay, thank you. We'll now close the public hearing. Commissioners, let me know if you have any questions, comments.
I have a question for the applicant.
Yes, go ahead.
Is this a chain wrestling ring?
Yes, so we have about 8 other facilities throughout the U.S. Most of them are in South Florida, and then there's one in Philadelphia, but this will be the first location in Atlanta.
So are you a franchisee, or is this your business in the other cities as well?
I'm a franchisee. Mhm.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any further discussion, commissioners? In that case, I will entertain a motion to approve staff's findings of fact.
So moved.
Oh.
Talking to Mike, so moved.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Staff, could you please call the roll?
Commissioner Smith Vickers,
Aye.
Commissioner Reverend Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Bailey,
Aye.
Commissioner Devon,
Aye.
Commissioner Boone.
The ayes have it. I will now entertain a motion to approve, deny, or defer this case.
I make a motion to approve case U 24-019.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Staff, could you please call the roll?
Commissioner Smith Vickers,
Aye.
Commissioner Reverend Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Bailey,
Aye.
Commissioner Devon,
Aye.
Commissioner Boone.
Aye.
Okay, the ayes have it. I will now entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
On the record.
What did you say?
I have a question.
Absolutely.
I want to understand when we have a deferral, do we not entertain any guests that are for or against, since we do not have any automatic deferrals?
So if we open the public hearing, absolutely. We didn't have packets for that case, and there was a lot of confusion, so the public hearing, we didn't open the public hearing. And we also didn't have the material really in front of us, to go over that case. But yes, as long as we open the public hearing, then there's 10 minutes for and 10 minutes against.
Our previous case, there were individuals, I don't know if anyone signed the card, but someone could be sitting before us that did not want a deferral for that case. In as much as we did not receive a packet, do they have that privilege to speak?
Only if we open a public hearing. Now, one thing about that is that if it's going to be deferred, they will have to come back and say that, comment card again. And so in the past, even before me as chair, it was common not to open the public hearing if there was a deferral. If we want to change our protocol around that and we feel strongly about that, I'm absolutely open to hearing it.
Okay, I didn't know if there were protocols. I didn't know they were sitting there.
Were there any cards on that particular?
Which case was that? What's the case?
Number 2.
Yes, there were cards against.
She did say that they have a lot of opposition.
See,
I think that this is the problem we came up with in the agenda, as well as that it didn't say deferral on the agenda, and so people do come. But hopefully, I think the idea of the new process is that it was going to eliminate that, correct?
Well, I would think that if there were cards, we should have allowed them to speak.
The issue is with me, and I guess the staff could put it on the screen and I could see it. The issue is where this is I think a lesson learned for all of us is that if we're listening to them, you know, while we're listening, at least I am, I don't want to say what anyone else does, but the first thing I'm doing is I'm trying to see where the staff was on it. I'm going through, I'm trying to see where it is. I'm thinking through, you know, that area physically where it is. I'm reading and I'm listening and I'm trying to see when I have nothing before me.
Or no staff report as well.
And no report. And again, they probably can put it on the screen, but it hurts the process for me. So I think you have a very valid point. I think that we raised a valid point. I think the staff researched it and found out that we had a point, and they're going to make that correction so that if that happens in the future, we should, you know, if we're going to entertain public comment, we'll have the research. The other concern I have is if we do that, you know, are we hearing the case? That's my other concern is if we're giving either we're going to defer or we're not going to defer. If we to defer or not to defer. So if we're deferring, why would we hear from the public and the applicant can't respond because they're asking for a deferral?
And they're asking for a deferral to potentially make a great many changes as well. Yeah, I do think that I prefer as chair to always listen to the citizens. And in future, we can definitely do it that way. And now we know that we'll have staff reports for our deferrals and in hand as long as, along with the staff sharing about the case.
Could we get some staff guidance on that? I mean, you guys gave out the cards, and if the citizens weren't going to get to speak, we should have told them that they couldn't speak and not give them the cards. But if they got a card, it seemed like to me they came out here and sat all the way through this process, and then we didn't give them the opportunity to express their concerns. And I get that it's going to be deferred anyway, but still, they may not be able to make the next meeting, and they need to be on the record for expressing. I would think they would need to be on the record for expressing their opposition or their approval.
Chair.
Commissioner Vickers.
Okay. I was just gonna say that I think the points are valid, but my thought process behind it is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Reginald and Matthew, but could the applicant have pulled out of the deferral at the meeting as well and went ahead and presented? Could they have gone up and say, we've decided to go ahead and present and not move on with the deferral, and then we could have used those public comment cards?
That's correct.
Okay, because, like you guys said, if we don't have, even though they had the public comment cards, maybe those citizens didn't know that the application was being deferred, so they could have, you guys put up the agenda online before the meetings, so they could have gone to look and done their due diligence as well by looking to see that that application was going to be deferred. So kind of got to look at it from from both ends. They knew it was coming up, but also that it was advertised that, hey, staff recommended deferral, so they kind of came up here for no reason. You understand what I'm saying?
Madam Chair? Yes. And to that point, let's go back to Cliftondale. The Hakeem firm, the Hilliard firm, Hakeem Hilliard, had wanted to do another deferment. And I was saying, well, Cliftondale wasn't here. And the point that I was making was that Cliftondale shows up when it's something that is affecting them. The reason why I would posit that they didn't come tonight was because they thought that it would be deferred as well. Their council member was also requesting a defer.
deferral so that she could, so I think that's a valid point that Commissioner Smith Vickers is making, and I think that we kind of witnessed that tonight. And my other question, well, to go back to my question, is if we hear public comment, but we're not hearing the case, then what does that do? We're gonna hear public comment again on it when we actually hear the case.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying, was simply that on the day that we vote, it's the most essential that the residents are here speaking about the case. So they would have had to come back. You know, and we can also write everything down, but I would think that they would want to like hear the applicant's, you know, presentation as well, and then comment on it.
Yeah. Again, we're gonna have a training on Friday. I think that would be a great time for us to talk about all of this. But I will say that we don't need to hear public comment if we're not going to be in the public hearing. It is a legal process. The process is designed for both sides to have equal time. If you are going to be hearing comment from one side during one time period, then that might make the timeframes unequal. If ever that were to get questioned in the future, then that might become an issue. So that's why we do things the way that we do them. Open up the public hearing, give everybody 10 minutes. Also, the reason why we ask people to, even though it might be inconvenient for people to show up here, even though these cases get deferred, is because we go through the trouble of advertising these cases in the newspaper. We post signs, we put them on the website, we do quite a few things, many of them required by Georgia law, to inform people when these hearings are going to be held. And so although it is certainly inconvenient for them to show up, even though we're going to defer the hearing, when they show up, it is our intent to let them know when that hearing is going to be continued to, so that they can then come back on that date and be heard. It's not always perfect, but hopefully it works more often than not. So the people that were here, even though they didn't get to be heard tonight, they get to come back on April the 16th or whatever that date is. And if it all goes the way it's supposed to, they'll be able to get heard on that day.
Excuse me. We made a premature assumption that that case was going to be deferred. It wasn't automatically deferred. So we voted to defer it. So prior to the vote, the individuals had filled out a card against that particular project. I think somewhere right in there, we need to make a decision so they will not have to sit here all night, or let them speak to say, we don't want you to defer this. We want you to deny it because we are opposed to this project. And that's it. Here in the case.
I don't quite understand what you're saying, because people appeared that we should.
I said we prematurely made an assumption that we would automatically defer the case. We voted to defer the case. It wasn't automatically deferred when a client just walked in or seeing it on the paper. We voted, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong.
No, you're correct.
We voted to defer it. So what I guess what I am saying, in the interim, the visitors filled out cards against.
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't know what the outcome was going to be at the beginning. So they should have been able to speak. That's just.
Chair, may I be recognized?
It's not just my opinion. It's just what is right. Now I'm for policy, rules, and regulation, but I'm just saying that seems to have been that needs to be corrected. That right in there needs to be corrected. If it's a deferral if we're gonna vote on it, it's not a deferral, it's a suggestion that it's a recommendation.
So,
we
so you're
still have
saying
to
that
vote
if
on
people appear here at the meeting, then we should go forward with the case every time?
it. No, I didn't say the case. I said they filled out a card for opposition of the project. So I guess all of that should have been alleviated. But we didn't automatically defer it. We voted to defer it after they filled out the card. So now let them fill out the card then. All right.
Commissioner Vickers?
So I think I understand what Commissioner Devon is saying. I think you're just saying that why did staff allow those people to fill out the card? But I think that you still need to, because the applicant also could have pulled the deferral back and went ahead with the case. So, I mean, you understand what I'm saying? So at the same time, and also again, like I said, the agenda was advertised. The public had the opportunity to see that this case was being deferred, or was recommended for deferral online. So you're saying no?
We always,
The public did not see that. When director gave us the briefing, he told us that this case most likely will be deferred. It had not been deferred when we walked into this room. So
Yeah,
we didn't know
yes.
that, neither did the public.
So not saying that we knew that it was going to be deferred. I'm saying that the public had the opportunity to know that this case was going up for, the staff was asking for approval for a deferral. Not saying that, you understand what I'm saying? I'm not saying that the deferral was.
It's not on there, Steve. It's not on there. That's not on the agenda that the public received.
So, okay. So the public didn't know that this was the recommendation. So do you guys put up staff reports online?
Yes, a week before the meeting, and if we know that they're going to defer or we're going to defer, we would indicate that on the agenda. But if we don't know, then if the applicant wants to defer it after we post the agenda, so that's why we did send out the staff report for this case last week, because we didn't know that applicant was going to request to defer it. We got that after the agenda was posted.
But even though the agenda didn't say it, the staff report that was uploaded on the city website had staff recommendation of deferral, or no?
No, I don't think it was a deferral, because
Okay.
that came after we posted everything.
Got it. Okay. So I get what you're saying. Yeah. Okay. I see what you're saying. Makes sense. Okay.
No, and I think moving forward, we're all in agreement that we want to hear everyone. And now we understand how these deferrals work specifically, and can move forward with all of the information.
Madam Chair, I just want to make sure, I'm sorry, Commissioner Broome, go ahead.
And it's not so much that we have to hear them at this time. We know it's not the proper time, but we have to acknowledge that they're here and not just let them sit here all evening for a case that we know at such and such time is probably not going to present. So just that heads up would be helpful in this case, or when.
Or maybe even an apology that we're not hearing the
Yeah, and
case.
but I think now we want citizens to be more engaged now than ever. So we don't want to discourage anybody from coming to a meeting.
One thing I will also do is I moved it up in the agenda. And so ahead of the meeting, I can move all deferrals up in the agenda so no one sits. It was a short meeting, and in a long meeting, I think that's, really helpful because then people can just leave.
Chair, may I be recognized?
Absolutely.
This is the last thing I'm going to say tonight because I know we want to get out of here. I was just thinking that in that situation, because now that makes a difference from what the commissioner was saying, that, it kind of came on the back end of things. So that makes sense. I see what you guys are saying. I was thinking that on the front end, you know what I'm saying? But what I was going to say was maybe we could have done a deferral, maybe, and acknowledged the public hearing cards to be moved to the next meeting so that, you know what I'm saying? So they don't feel like, just to acknowledge them that they're here, and even though that they may not be able to come to the next meeting or so, their public hearing cards will still be heard.
Yes, no, I agree, absolutely. And in the past, I've even opened public hearings when it's been a deferral, if I've seen that there's a lot of people. Tonight, we went in a very different direction, and we're looking up, notes and doing all these different things. But yeah, absolutely.
Someone want to second my motion?
I think someone did second your motion. Your emotion,
Second.
but perfect. Okay, staff, could you please call the roll?
Signify by raising their hands. Let the record show that everyone voted in the affirmative.
Thank you.